Hey guys, Renee Dee here, publisher of Iconic Life, and I am here with the owner of AFT Construction, Brad Leavitt, and we are so excited about a new collaboration that we've got going that we're calling the Net Zero Home. So Brad, excited to be working with you on this. What is a net zero home? What does that mean?
So the Net Zero Home, this is actually the Desert Comfort Experience by Professional Builders, the Home of the Year 2021. And so what that means is a home that's off the grid essentially. So what that means is a home that's sustainable, that over the course of a year will produce as much energy as it consumes. Renee, what we're doing is, so the drive, where we walked up, we're gonna have a driveway. So the driveway's gonna come up, kind of angle. It's gonna be like a U-turn. So we're gonna come up this way and then come in this way. We're gonna have a little guest casita here. The house itself will be about here. We're gonna have the garage here and then we'll have the house here. So what's amazing, you're gonna come in the front door, which is about this way. You're gonna come in the front door, it's a large pivot door. So when you come in, you're gonna see this amazing, like you'll have like planters going out, and then you go to the left, there's like a kitchen, great room, all windows, overhang, super modern. K&Q Interiors is doing the design for us in Scottsdale. Awesome. They're amazing. And then we're gonna have this amazing pool overlooking. So one of the keys, why he really liked this lot is because you can see the hillside.
It's beautiful.
It's all private, it's protected. This is state land, so no one will ever build here. It just has this house and this house, that's it. Oh. But the way we're gonna be tucked in and the way the house is, you won't really see that. And he's gonna have just these beautiful views every night.
Oh, it's gorgeous up here. Plus, it's so quiet too.
It is so quiet. It's crazy how quiet it is.
I know.
And of course, you know, we have to have no light pollution, so we'll have to cater to lighting, you know, so no light pollution. Circle Lighting has been working with them on that, which is great. Crestjohn's working with them on this, which is good.
My friends.
Yeah, he opted to go with Sub-Zero Wolf. And then the Fox blocks and the concrete, and there's just some neat things we're doing, like structurally, like the concrete. We're gonna have we're gonna have a waterproof membrane underneath, you know, an insulation, and then we're gonna do the slab, then more insulation. We're gonna have 2 layers of OSB on top, so it creates this amazing floor and then wood flooring throughout. So
nice.
It's gonna be a really cool house, super fun. Working with Burdette on cabinetry right now, so
nice.
Yeah, it's fun.
So I want to understand, talk me through a little bit of what makes this home net zero. So it's going to be completely self-sustaining.
Yes.
So talk us through that.
That's a good question. So whenever you're thinking of net zero, I mean, you have to have an energy consultant. So, you know, Peterson Keller, who's our architect out of Minnesota, this is one of the key things with net zero is understanding the building science of it, because they have to do the energy calcs. They figure out, well, how many windows do we have? And then based on the windows, they do their calculations and they figure out, okay, on our exterior walls, if it's wood frame, they'll figure out, is it 16 inches on center, is it 24 inches on center? Because the thickness of the wood, you know, the studs, you know, the supporting, you know, the 2x6, 2x8 exterior wall studs, that's gonna impact the energy efficiency of the house. So that's why when you typically are wood frame, they're gonna try to go 24 inches on center, because that gives you more insulation and less, you know, wood, where you can have that dead space and gaps and heat and cold loss. So they calculate that, but this is ICF. So ICF is the concrete foam. So we install those Lego blocks, the foam, which we learned about. So ICF, which is insulated concrete form. So we're gonna put those forms up. You fill them with concrete, and now you have a solid concrete wall, 8 to 12 inches thick, depending on, you know, the thickness and the structural integrity and so forth. And then you have foam on either side. And then the roof system is what they call SIPs, which is structured insulated panel system. So this is, instead of like a wood truss system where you spray foam, this is even more advanced. So the SIPs and then the ICF and then the windows are, our goal was to do quad glaze. You know, most of the time you see dual glaze, but quad glaze is about twice as thick and it's very costly, but we're gonna end up doing a triple glaze system. So going triple glaze, and then that'll help with the UV loss for the energy efficiency and the solar power, of course.
And then how does it, where you're situating the house on the lot, you're obviously thinking about where the sun is hitting it at different times. So yeah.
So that is one of the #1 things, especially in the desert, because you think about the summer where it's so hot and that sun, and when it's in the southwest, is just killer on a house. So when you have that much glass, this house has so much glass for 3,000 square feet. So you really have to figure out our overhangs. So that's why it's a modern home, flat roof. We're gonna have some big overhangs, which creates some nice patios. You know, they're still gonna have good views, but you have to have that protect the windows from all the heat loss. And so, because if the sun's baking on that, you're never gonna hit that. And one of the important definitions that most people don't understand, there's net zero, there's passive houses, there's like true net zero. And what that means is, so net zero, they figure that over the course of a year, you know, how much energy you're producing, you know, and internalizing, that's how much you're using and consuming. So over the year average, you hit net zero, which means, you know, there will be some months in the summer where that AC is running and it's tough on the solar power to keep up, but in the winter you're using nothing essentially. So that's where you had that net average over the year. If you have a true net zero house, and that's where you think about maybe if you're building in Canada or even in Phoenix, so Canada in the winter, Phoenix in the summer, that's where you are only using as much energy for the day as you're as you're producing for the day.
Yeah.
That is a lot more difficult to achieve. It is achievable in any of these demographics and climates, but it's very expensive. And so you have to think, what is your end goal? So this one is a net zero, which means over the year we're going to use as much energy as we consume. And so that's the goal of this home.
And then what about, talk to me about water usage. So obviously you want to be eco-friendly when it comes to water too.
I love that.
Yeah,
so
okay.
There's a lot of options
I've been
there.
studying.
I know, I'm really impressed, Renee. So the thing about water usage, so this one, we're going to actually have a well system that's going to capture rainwater and filtrate it, go through a filtration system that's going to be used for all the irrigation. So even though we're in the desert, we're still going to have some vegetation that we bring in and landscape the property.
Right.
And that takes drip systems, that takes water. They're not going to have sprinklers, we're not going to have grass, but we do have to water those things. And so what ends up happening is all the rainwater we capture, we use it, and we can disperse it throughout the property. So that's going to save a lot of water, which is great. But then the water they consume, the potable water for toilets and the faucets and showers and everything they're doing, that will be tied into city water. So, but there are options again where you could do, I know there's a builder in Texas that I network with, and he does a very expensive system. It's an underground tank that catches the water for the year and goes through an entire filtration system and comes back. So all the water they use in the house for drinking water and for bathing and everything else is self-sustaining. So there are those options, but again, it's all levels, right? It's consumer driven. Everyone has priorities. I mean, we want to build, in a perfect world, I think it'd be 100% sustainable, but the reality is the cost associated isn't for everyone. I mean, and so you have to balance, investment, you have to balance dollars, and then what the client expectations are.
Yep, got it. So what about the other thing that people think about when, in that same thing about sustainability and net zero is off the grid. So to what extent will this house be on or off the grid?
Now that is another good question. And that kind of follows up to what we were talking about, that when you think off the grid, that goes, is this a true passive home? Which means, is this a true daily net zero or a year? So when you think, without having the exact numbers in front of me, but a majority of the year will be off the grid, essentially. I mean, they'll have water, so technically the water is not off the grid, because we're not putting a well in for them. But, as far as electricity is concerned, the solar power will generate enough with our battery backups to sustain the home for majority of the year. June to October, those 4 or 5 months are really hot, and that's where it will not be off the grid, but we will be able to produce and offset a majority of the energy used.
As far as looking at the sustainable home, I know working with K&Q, they're looking at environmentally friendly materials. So how are you looking at this home from a standpoint of the wood floor and, some of the, I don't know if there's any carpet going in, but any flooring or tile and things like that?
That's a great question. So we're not doing any carpet. And one thing is, it's funny because we had looked at some products that were from Portugal. We had looked at some natural stones from Europe, and that decision was taken out. We decided not to. And the reason being, the cost to produce that, the cost to manufacture, shipping, all that goes into the pollution and everything else. And so what we decided to do was, let's use local vendors, people that have it, so we lessen the amount of shipping and fuel and everything else, that carbon footprint that we're trying to avoid. So we are using a lot of natural products, natural to the area, natural to Phoenix, natural to this climate, or very close by. And that will allow, especially for the exterior stones and interior a lot of the tile that we're using, that way we're not shipping things in from overseas or out of the country. So that decision has been made as well. And a lot of our vendors are working with sustainable products, such as Kohler. I mean, Kohler has been great. They have touchless faucets, and they have the self-cleaning toilets and things where that's their goal, right? Especially with COVID, you see that a lot with that technology. So they're going to be putting in some of their amazing product. And Circle Lighting's been working with us, and they're going to be doing some lighting that is triggered when you walk into the room and then turns off when you walk out to help with energy savings. Even though it's LED and doesn't use a lot, it's still good to have those methods in place.
Every little
thing
bit
matters.
every little bit matters.
Sure.
So the livability on this house, what will be some of the daily habits that these homeowners are going to need to incorporate in their lives that maybe you wouldn't have in a just a standard home that isn't looking at some of these sustainability issues?
Well, that's a good question. So it is single level, so they it's a husband and wife, and they have kids that are outside the home that'll come visit, right? And they do entertain, and so they're going to keep the home open for a year for all the vendors and anyone that's participated to come to the home, which is great. But their day-to-day living, they work. Our client works as a consultant. He does a lot in the construction industry. He consults a lot of the major home builders. He teaches about product innovation. He teaches about waterproofing and construction science and building science. So this is important to him. So especially now with COVID, although he has his own institution that is out of Denver, now he's been doing a lot of more Zoom, and so it's really important to have high-speed internet and these, the office and everything where he can function here and still do his online consulting and everything from home base. And so that's going to be really catered to his lifestyle and to continue his profession, where he's going to be a little bit more at home as opposed to traveling as much as he did in the past.
So Brad, it's super exciting that you were chosen. So obviously your client is somebody who's really knowledgeable about sustainable building and a net zero home. And so I know that they interviewed a number of builders to find just the right company to actually build their home. So it's an honor that they selected you. Tell me a little bit about how did that happen?
Yeah, that's a good question. So that one of their criteria is actually when they were interviewing builders, especially here in the Phoenix, Scottsdale area, one of their key factors was, okay, does the builder have some understanding and knowledge of building science? Which I would say most builders do to some extent, depending on how much they've really dove into it. And we're still learning and become more proficient. But their key factor was, we're going to have this project. We have a lot of vendors participating, vendors on national level. What company understands marketing, or at least has an eye for marketing, at least has a desire to increase their marketing and utilize that in conjunction with what professional builders doing? And so they're looking for a partner that could co-brand the development and project. So that was one of their key criteria. So when they interviewed builders, we hit it off, just with our marketing strategies and things we're doing on the different platforms, and having different demographics on LinkedIn and YouTube and Facebook and Instagram, Pinterest, that was really one of the keys that awarded us the project. They looked at that and said, well, this is key because this is a builder that can now use these platforms. So there's value not only for the client and for the building science, which we're trying to educate the public on a national level, not just building and construction side, but also consumer side. So that was really important. And then also the benefit of the vendors. You have a lot of vendors participating, in this project that are having the brand. So brand recognition and exposure for them is really important. And so that was important to have a builder that, could help publicize the products and some of the innovative things that they're doing, so that, we can educate the public and hopefully kind of change this curve of construction that we've been trying to move this, the slow moving boat to try to get people to understand the value of investing in good construction and good homes.
Yep. Well, and so now Iconic brings another 100,000 people to that story.
Right,
so we've got our national audience, we've got our local audience, we've got our social media too, to be able to keep amplifying this story. And really my goal with this project and this collaboration that we're doing is to take the large number of readers that I've got and be educating them on building science and net zero and sustainability and how to be more responsible in building. So,
which I love, and that's why it's a great partnership, because now you're in too. So with you from a local level, and you have a national presence anyways in other markets, it's just going to be huge. And that's where, it just adds value to the project, to the client, and it's a win-win for both of us. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, I'm excited. Plus, it's a great learning experience. This is the home of the future, right? This is what we're all moving towards, because we can't just be consumers and just be plopping homes on land for much longer. We've got to get very responsible and get a lot smarter about how we're building homes.
And that's where I'm glad you teed that up. I know one of the things that I think is tough as a builder is, I get it. Like, all of our clients have a budget. It doesn't matter if you're doing a $200,000 home or a $10 million home. It really doesn't matter. Everyone has a budget and limitations as to what they want in their house and what they're willing to pay for that. And one of the tough things is so many consumers just look at square foot price, right? How big of a home can I get for how cheap can I build it? And that has always been one of the tough things, because what's really important is when we can help clients understand the value of putting it into the bones of the house. Yeah, you're not going to have maybe a $20,000 range, that you want, but let's look at how are we flashing the windows, and how are we doing the exterior walls, and how are we doing the insulation, and how are we building this home so they'll stand the test of time, and not only be good investment for you, but for the world, and sustainable. So that is so key, and that's been the hard part, is educating just the public and get the builders and clients to be on board with that. So
yeah, for sure. Well, it's a message that we're looking to get out with Iconic, so we keep writing about sustainable products and things like that. And I think as we continue to evolve with this home too, that's something that we hope to bring to the table, is bring some additional partners and things like that to the table that can tell that sustainability story.